Thank you, everybody. This is the March 2022 Global Lounge Tech and Strategy call. Glad to have all of our private Global Lounge members here. And today's guest presenter is Steve Werner. And Steve has been around the JVology community. Actually, Jay and I met Steve in February of 2020 and have become fast friends and mastermind connected and really look up to what Steve is doing and how he's helping people, and even following the progress and process as Steve has evolved through COVID, which a lot of us have been forced to do and to make changes as the world has changed. So over the last 8 years, Steve has gone from failing at holding live events to holding over 41 live events for himself, plus 23 for his clients. He's spoken on more than 200 stages, including at Harvard, and built and critiqued over 370 one-to-many sales presentations. And I know that Steve has worked with some people that are here in the room that are in our flow, in our blast-off level programs, with that one-to-many sales presentation, really tweaking it and refining it to convert. So during COVID, as I mentioned, Steve pivoted to helping 32 coaches and online entrepreneurs to launch webinars. And that has more than $5.1 million in sales in the last 12 months. So do we have your attention yet? Are you in the right place? Are you alive? Can you nod? Can you give jazz hands? Can you act like you're in JVology and that I'm running the show because you all know I need responses or I'll freak out? So we're really happy to invite Steve in today. What he's going to be sharing is a strategy on high ticket flywheel and how to use your stories to sell webinars, workshops, and live events. So if that sounds at all like it could be helpful for you to sell in any of these ways, then give me a big shout, a big wave. Are you ready? Yes. All right, thanks. And keep that energy up. Use the chat, use your reactions and your jazz hands or thumbs up and down so that Steve can also keep a pulse on how you're feeling and what's going on in the house. And I now pass it over to Steve Werner.
Awesome. Krista, that was an amazing intro. Thank you so much. I know some of the people in the room. For those of you who don't know me, Krista just told you like my life story in a bubble. I'm glad that everybody has their camera on. So this is meant to be interactive. Elizabeth, you might turn your camera on. I've been known to kick people off of webinars for not having their camera on. We won't do that here. But how many of you in the last 6 months have been on a webinar, somebody else's webinar? Anyone? And how many of you turned your camera off, fell asleep, went and got food, looked at Facebook, or just were bored to tears? Anybody? Few people maybe? So one of the big things that we've helped people with over the last 18 months is webinars. I'm going to get into my story in just a second, but we're going to be talking specifically about how to interact with people. Some of it's going to be virtual. Live events are starting to come back. I will say in the last 3 weeks, I have booked 3 clients to help build live events, definitely coming back. So we're also going to be talking about how you can use some of this for the stage. Does that sound great to everybody? Everybody excited? Okay, awesome. So this is meant to be interactive. I will call out some questions. If I do not call on you, please don't try to speak over me because it can make for really awkward social interactions. Okay, so how many of you have built your origin story, your hero's journey story? A few people, maybe? Okay, we got a few people with thumbs up, thumbs down. So one of the biggest challenges facing coaches, consultants, healers, people that are out in the world trying to sell their products is that we are all teachers. We all love to teach. Some of you guys have experienced this before, but I'm going to ask you really quickly you can close your eyes if you want. This is going to be an imagination experience, the imagination station. Close your eyes with me and go back to high school or college. And I want you to think about your favorite teacher. I want you to think about how you would walk into their classroom, how you would sit down, how they probably knew your hobbies. They probably knew if you were in band or if you played a sport. They definitely knew your name. They probably joked around a little bit. Now I want you to go down the hall and I want you to go to your least favorite teacher's class. You probably walked in, you probably sat down, they were probably at the board scribbling away. My guy was at a blackboard just scribbling. He might throw some stuff over his shoulder once in a while at us, like, hey, are you paying attention? Hey, do this. If you're like me though, your brain kind of got overwhelmed a little bit. You probably put your head down and went to sleep. Even if you're a straight A student and you went to Harvard like Anne, you probably fell asleep when people taught too much. Can everybody remember that feeling? Now I want you to ask yourself, out of those people, out of that experience, if you're honest with yourself, I bet you can still remember something that you learned from your favorite teacher, but you have a hard time remembering anything specific from your not favorite teacher. And the key takeaway of this is experience and engagement is much more important than teaching. Teaching, feeds our ego, right? Because we're like, we are the genius, we're the rock star, we're the guru. Maybe you don't like that term, I don't, but you're that person, right? Like internally, we're like, we're the person and we're going to teach. If you have imposter syndrome, or if you ever feel like you are not good enough, you are going to over deliver to try to make sales, to try to prove that you are the right person. And usually that just leads to people falling off. Like people don't pay attention, right? If you look at YouTube videos, you can go on and you can look at where the fall off is. People who teach, the fall off is usually within the first 90 seconds because people don't want to watch educational content unless they're trying to solve a specific problem. They want to be entertained, and you drip out information. We're going to go through the 3 biggest stories that you use. You can use these on social marketing, social media marketing. You can use them in email. You can use them in live events. I know Steve, wherever Steve Feld is, he's under me right now. Steve speaks quite a bit at Rotary meetings, at SCORE, at Lunch and Learns. One of the best ways to get clients anywhere. If you guys are willing to go out in public right now, I don't want to know your political views on coronavirus. Not pertinent to this conversation, but if you are willing to start going out, since the start of the year, I have spoke in person every week. And I will tell you that my business is going through the roof because of it. Speaking in public about what you do in an engaging way is in my opinion, the fastest way to grow your business. The reason that stories work, the reason that in-person works, the reason that emailing 3 to 5 times a week works is because it gets you in front of people. And what does everybody want to know before they buy? Anyone have a guess? You put it in the chat, you can raise your hand. No one? Krista.
I want to know what's in it for them. How are you going to help me? What are you going to do for me?
What else do they want? What do you want before you really buy something? Because how many times have you
Know
heard
you.
somebody?
Do I want to deal with this person? Do I like this person?
That's a good question. How many of you have heard somebody say, I can solve your problem? You have a specific problem. You need more leads. I can solve that. You probably get 5 DMs in your Facebook every day about somebody who can deliver leads or solve some problem for you. But do you trust that person? Ever? Right, exactly. If you're reaching out to me cold, why would I ever trust you? So how do you build that trust bridge? And you build that trust bridge through 3 stories. The first story is going to be your hero's journey. I'm going to share with you mine, and I'm going to walk you through how to build yours in this call. Number 2, you need a value story. I'm going to show you what those stories are. The third one that you need miracles. You need to show people how you've done this for other people. If you build up other people, whoever you have helped, I know more than half the people on this call. If you have helped somebody and you push their story out to the universe through email, through video, through talking about them, all it does is make you look amazing. It makes them look amazing too, which moves everybody right up the spiral. Okay, so I'm going to do my hero's journey. It's going to be very short. There are specific things in here I want you guys to see though. So 2013, I was sitting in the Frog Bar in Treasure Island. Has anyone ever been here to Vegas? Anyone been to the Treasure Island? So there's a bar called the Frog Bar. I was sitting at the Frog Bar. I could hear the slot machines behind me, ching, 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 money pouring out of them. I could hear some lady screaming at the craps table because she was winning a ton of money. But I was sitting at the bar and I was miserable. I had a drink in front of me that I hadn't touched. I had a hot fudge sundae, which is my favorite food, that was completely melted and in a soupy mess. And I had just been told that I owed $125,000 and my bank account had about $300 in it. I don't know if you guys have ever received news like that, but that had me sitting at the bar. See, a couple months earlier, I had gone to see Tony Robbins, and Tony Robbins said, you should go live your dreams. And at the time, I worked as a corporate manager for Vail Resorts in their restaurants. I ran their fine dining program. And I quit a 6-figure job to go live my dream of being an entrepreneur. That led me to Las Vegas because I wanted to hold live events. I went out and I spent all of my money, $35,000, trying to hold a live event. I rented the biggest space possible. Who in here has ever jumped into something with both feet and you're like, I'm just going to make this work? Does anyone? I think entrepreneurs all kind of have that, like, we're gonna do it. Well, I did it. I moved to Las Vegas, spent all my money, and I had a total of 2 people out of a 2,000 person room. The room held 2,000 people, and I had sold 2 tickets. If you're familiar with live events, you have something called a room block, which is a block of hotel rooms that you're responsible for. I had a pretty large room block, and nobody had booked. So this led to a nice call from the banquet director, and I had just been told that I owed $125,000. And I didn't have anybody other than these 2 people coming to the event. I didn't have any money left to do any marketing. So I had to have a real heart to heart with them. And the heart to heart that I had with them was, I don't have any money. You can sue me, but if you sue me, you're not going to get anything either. Then I'll just file bankruptcy. And they ended up letting me out of my contract. They kept my deposit. This led to me sitting at the bar again with my friends. And my friends asked me, what do you really want? At the time, I had 2 offers from other restaurants to go back and manage. But they asked me, what do I really want? Does anyone believe that the universe tests you before it really gives you any kind of success? Absolutely, right? The harder the test, the bigger the reward. Remind me about that later, and I'll share something else with you. But the test was, I had 2 6-figure offers on the table. One of them came with a signing bonus offering to move me up to Portland, Oregon. One of them offering to move me to Park City. I love skiing. Both of those looked really good. But my friends asked, what do you really want to do? And I said, I believe that I can do this. This is what I want to do. At the time, I was, I think, 35. And I was like, if I'm going to do it, now is the time. So they said, you can live in our utility room. If you guys have seen some of the presentations I do, I share a slide. I have a picture of their utility room with a bed crammed in the corner of it. I keep it on my cell phone to remind me of this. I moved in. They said, we don't care. You can live with us for a couple months as long as you work at least 6 hours a day on your dream. Well, this led to me reading all the books I could at the library on marketing because I knew nothing about marketing. It led me to Dan Kennedy. If you guys know Dan Kennedy, classic direct marketer. He's the godfather of everybody that you know nowadays. And it led me to holding my first live event that was successful. 80 people who were dentists in a room off the strip at a Park Hyatt, I think. Maybe a Holiday Inn. I don't actually remember. I should go find that hotel. 80 dentists. I made about $9,000. And that got me involved in the world of direct marketing. The real thing that I learned, though, in talking to Dan was like, you have to sell something from stage. Has anyone ever held an event or spoke somewhere and you leave and you're like, I didn't make any money? Has anyone ever had that happen? Few people, right? Well, there are tricks to it. There are tactics that you need to use. And I didn't know that. I thought you made money from the ticket sales. So Dan's question to me, if you guys don't know Dan, he's a grumpy old man. Picture Bad Santa meets like really grumpy grandpa slash direct marketer. That's Dan Kennedy. So he looked at me and he was like, what are you doing? You're stupid. And I was like, what do you mean? And he said, how much work did you put in to hold that event? And I started listing it off, and he said, shut up, just give me the ballpark hours. And I said, probably, I don't know, 120, maybe 200 hours. And he said, to make $9,000, he's like, I make $9,000 in 1 hour. He's like, last time I spoke on stage, we made 55,000 selling from stage in 30 minutes. That was like 1983. Russell Brunson, if you guys haven't seen the documentary, there's a documentary on YouTube you can watch. Russell Brunson did $12 million in 90 minutes through public speaking. So Dan opened my eyes to that. He taught me how to sell from stage, and he taught me the most important thing is having the right people in the room. So who in here has tried to hold a live event where you made money, or has held a live event successfully? Ann Hessian, I know you have. Ann's event. And Gordon, great. So I used to, my story, I went out, I started holding events, I started speaking on stage, and I got better and better and better. My first goal was to hold 10 events in a year. We were doing that. I was burning myself out, going. Then we started slowing down on my events, and people started coming to me asking how I was holding live events. And from 2017 until I met Krista and Jay, my business was helping coaches who had a list, who already had a webinar going, who already had their business pretty dialed in and were at 6 figures. I showed them how to hold a live event and hit the $1 million mark. So between 2017 and COVID, we did that for 6 different businesses. It's a big undertaking. And we're knocking it out of the park. Well, who remembers where they were at in February of 2020? Everybody, right? That's like our moment of like JFK.
Yeah, I remember JFK. I'll tell you later. I'm sorry.
So I had just been hired by a group of doctors for a very lucrative contract. My upside on their contract alone was going to be about 600,000. They moved me to Phoenix. My job was to put on live events for doctors in the Phoenix area. I thought COVID was just going to blow over and go away. We all know how that ended. I woke up week 2 of the lockdown and realized like the doctors were shutting down because most doctors' offices are paycheck to paycheck. They couldn't make forward progress. They were shutting down. In turn, the company that hired me said, we'll pay out the rest of your contract, which, because it was largely compensation based, meant that I got about 10K. And they said, we need to part ways. I also had signed up 3 clients for the fall of 2020 to hold live events for, which led to me refunding them over $100,000 out of my bank account. Has anyone in here ever written a check for $100,000? I'm kind of sad that I did, but it was a great learning experience. It left me with not very much in my bank account, but I felt like it was the thing to do. They reached out, we were talking, and I said, look, like, I don't know when this is going to end, and I don't feel right holding on to your money. This is when we didn't know about PPP loans. We didn't know about how anything was going to shake out. So I refunded them. One of them came back to me and said, could you help us build a webinar? Which was the genesis for what we've done over the last 18 months. We built their webinar out with them. I built a couple other webinars earlier in my career using the stuff that we learned to speak on stage and the things that were working in webinars, and push them together. And we ended up doing $80,000 in that launch. That webinar has now gone on to do over 600K. And then I've worked with several different influencers. We're now at like 5.3 million, I think, is our total cumulative. Kind of keep a track of it every month to see where it is. So that brings us to today. Now we're starting to see live events come back. Who in here has ever heard the saying, like, always be thankful for the struggles that you go through, or the struggles that you go through lead to your biggest breakthroughs? Has anyone ever heard that? Tyler Perry, if you don't know who he is, guy that makes movies, producer. executive producer. He was homeless for a while. And he said, one of the biggest gifts that I ever realized was all the pain, all the suffering that I went through was really just preparing me and giving me the tools to be successful. So over the last year and a half, I've had to really dive deep and really hone my skills, because getting conversions from a virtual event or from a webinar or from a workshop is much more challenging than doing it on stage. But through doing that, we have discovered pretty much the exact process to reverse engineer a live event. So you guys all doing good? Doing okay? All right. So I'm going to quickly lay it out for you. Then I'm going to take you through the stories. I'm going to show you how you use the stories. So the live event starts all the way over here, like up in the corner. That is your goal. But you can't just fill a live event. Selling tickets to a live event is the hardest thing in the world. What you need to do is move one step down. So here in the middle, we have challenges, we have workshops, we have summits. Maybe we have a one-day event. We have a smaller, lightweight product that sells a course or a program, and we give a ticket to the live event. Now, the ticket usually comes with a seat deposit or something to ensure that they show up. If we step back one step further, right, we have, what do we have? We have the mid-level piece that moves to a webinar or a sales piece that sells the program that leads to the high ticket event. But if we step back even one step further, we have, how do we interact with people so that people know what we do, what we sell, they know that they can trust us. How do we do that? That's what we're all here to learn, right? So the key to this is look at what your offer is. Your offer should have somewhere between 5 and 10 specific items that get outcomes for your ideal audience. So who in here has ever built an offer like this for a webinar or a workshop? It's called the offer stack. Has anyone gone through this process? Okay, so one more time, let's put our hands up. Okay, so if you have done an offer stack, you've got the start of it. Now it needs to have, each item in there needs to have a specific name, right? A specific thing, because people buy outcomes. So now if we move one row over, if you were building a spreadsheet, I build out spreadsheets with my clients around this specific thing. If we move one row over, we now have the pain point that our offer item solves. I'm going to show you how this is done in JVology. I'll also show you how it's done in my business so you can track it. So what do we have so far? We have the offer item. We have the pain point that it solves. The next piece is the emotion. What emotion are the people feeling before they solve this? If you can identify the specific emotion, it will help you immensely. I will show you how that works inside of marketing. So now that you have these pieces laid out, the next piece you want to tie to is, what is the story? What is the story that you tell that highlights the pain point, solves it, and ties to the item in your offer? And the last column is, what either third-party proof or influencer or client can you point to that has a similar story? That column can contain a whole bunch of different stories right there. And that's, I'll show you how all this links into the high ticket flywheel. So once you have those things, right? Because who in here is familiar with a value ladder? Few people. Okay. So a value ladder states you get one big outcome for people. I help people sell from stage. That's my big outcome. What we do though is we have a top tier, a mid tier, and a bottom tier. Bottom tier is free, low commitment. Mid tier is like your tripwire, your SLOs, things that are under $100. They get people moving forward, but they're still pretty low commitment on both parts. Your mid tier is going to be like that $1,000 to, we'll say, $6,000 range. Your high ticket is $6,000 and above. Everything you do should point towards one solve, one big thing. All you're changing in that value ladder is the way it's delivered. High ticket is one-on-one hand holding. A little bit lower would be small group program. If you guys are in Blast Off, if you're familiar with like that, that's a small group program, and that fits that price point. A little bit lower than that, we have JV Lounge, which we're all in, right? That's like the mid ticket. Low ticket, think of templates, think of like single classes, anything that gets the ball moving and gets people to open their wallet. So your stories, because now we're going to flip back to that offer paradigm that I drew out. I'm drawing this on the screen. Normally I have an iPad, but I left my iPad at home today. Your stories all frame outcomes that you get people different ways. So let's say that you pull a little piece out of that offer and it becomes your $29 offer, your tiny offer. You now have, what are the pain points that it solves? The emotion that people feel, tying into somebody's emotion is the number one thing that you can do to get people to buy from you. Because if they know you felt the same emotion and got the result that they want, they will trust you and they'll buy from you. So you now have the pain points, the emotions, you have your story, and you have client stories, third-party proof stories, and all the other stories. You guys starting to see how this works? Those stories are the same stories. And the more you tell them way out front before you ever make an offer, people will feel like they know, like, and trust you, even though you have never had a personal conversation with them. The key is to tell personal stories. How's everyone doing? Does this stuff make sense? You guys keeping up? Did anyone learn something new? Is anyone have an aha in there somewhere? Okay, cool. So the 3 stories. Your hero's journey story should show how you earned or learned the main thing that you do. It should also show how much time you invested in learning how to do things the hard way. People want to buy from those they know, like, and trust. You can tell your hero's journey story in a long version, a short version. You can tell it in email. You will get sick of telling the story long before people get sick of hearing it. If there's one thing I can tell you, that would be the asterisks, because almost everyone, Ann and I were having this discussion not that long ago, and was like, do I need to change this up a little bit? Like, how are we working on this? You just keep telling it, because people still want to hear it. People need to see themselves in your story. They need to see the transformation that they want to have in your story. So you guys just saw the hero's journey. The really quick version I'll give you that you can write down. Some of you guys have heard this before. You start with the train wreck. The train wreck is a moment in time. I described what it was like sitting at the bar inside of Treasure Island. It was a moment in time. So how many of you have kids? Does anyone have kids? If you ever want to get your kids' attention, start describing how something looks, sounds, tastes, and smells. Our human brain can't fight it. If I start telling you about this amazing handmade coal-fired pizza that is next door to my house, and how we go over and it's got spinach and garlic and Asiago cheese that pulls apart, what are you guys all thinking of right now? You're all thinking of food. You can't help. So just, you start with the train wreck, but the way you grab people's attention and bring it in is you describe it in detail. Touch, taste, sound, hearing, and smell. So train wreck, describe a big pain point that brings people in. Then you want to align with people's pain points. What are your avatar's key pain points? You want to go through those, right? What were mine? I wanted to be different. I wanted to get out of corporate America. I felt like I was called to do more, to be more, to serve people. I had to learn marketing. I spent all of my money after going all in to try to learn something. That aligns with my avatar's pain points. Then epiphany. What was my epiphany? Here's the trick. The epiphany should always hook to what you sell, because they will have the epiphany and they'll be like, oh my goodness, that's just what I need. And you've done it. You can help me. So what's my epiphany? Holding live events, speaking, and selling from stage. Taught to me by Dan Kennedy. Next up, you want to have what I call the Rocky montage. Does everyone in here remember the Rocky movies? I got to come up with a new term for this because not everybody remembers Rocky. But there was this always a montage in every Rocky movie that was 3 minutes to 3 minutes and 20 seconds long, and it showed Rocky getting in shape, learning the thing, right? Rocky 4, I must have watched a million times growing up. He's running out in the snow with the thing behind his back. See, I like 4 people in here mirrored me. 5 people mirrored what I just did. This is a lesson for speaking on stage. So Rocky montage, it shows this is the one place that you can talk about stats and you will never be looked at as bragging. I read more than 218 books. I spent more than $600,000 on courses, coaching, and mentors. I spoke on more than 100 stages at that time. I held more than 40 of my own events. I spent more than $1 million holding events. All of those go in there. And because it's part of the montage, it's not seen as bragging, but it lets people know that I'm going, like I've done the work. And then the last thing is the big outcome that you want. In the last 18 months, I've helped do more than $5.2 million in sales. Huge outcome everybody wants. You can also end it with a high definition moment, describe what you're doing. This is really helpful for future pacing, for getting people to be like, oh my goodness, I can see that working for me. So if you describe what that's like, right? I just went to Mexico. I just had the pleasure of going to Mexico. Blue skies, amazing sunrises, feeling of the sand under your feet. I got to hang out with some great people from JVology. We got to talk all about business. And if I wouldn't have been successful, if I wouldn't have gone through the journey that I had, I would never have been able to be there. So that's a hero's journey. You guys all see how that works? Awesome. Anyone have any questions over it? Going once? Okay. Everyone's pretty familiar with that story, so that's good. The second story that you need, values. How many people in here have ever been told by somebody, sometimes in your DMs, those cold DMs we were talking about, that you can trust me? Anyone ever been told that? And what do you think right away? Right. So how many mastheads or mission statements have you seen by companies that say, we act with integrity, you can trust us, we always put our clients first? So here's the deal. Come up with 3, 4, 10 stories that show that you put your clients first, that you have integrity, that you've acted in your customer's best interest instead of your own, that you've bent over backwards to help people, that you've gotten results for people. So these are what we call value stories. This is one side of the value story. So I told you the short story about refunding over $100,000. It's a true story. It also shows that I put my clients first, that you can trust me even when the chips are down, and it was not an easy thing to do. It was pretty painful. I did what was best for my clients when I could have easily said, you know what, you paid me the money and you signed a no refunds clause. We'll do the event when we get to it. That story was there. So the other side of value stories are what is quirky, what's weird. The more vulnerable and the more memorable you can be. I know Steve loves coffee, right? I know Krista loves dancing. That makes me feel a personal connection to them. I know Anne loves whales. I know other Anne hated sales forever and then became really good at sales and threw up because of Tony Robbins. All of those make me personally connected to those people. Your audience, you'll know that you are doing this correctly when somebody comes up to you and tells you something personal about you and you don't know who they are. This happens in my email all the time. People respond to my emails. Oh my goodness, I got this Airbnb you've got to check out in some city that I've never heard of. Or have you ever seen this kind of food? I'm known for liking high-end food. I used to be in fine dining. I worked at a Michelin 3-star restaurant that was rated #2 in the world. Everybody knows that I live in Airbnbs and that I travel all the time. Everybody also hears my weird, crazy dating stories. Those are things that I share with my list. Sharing personal stuff with your list. Who in here sends out emails? Who in here sends out personal emails like you would send to your mom? That's the story that you want to tell. So you can tell really easily. When I started doing this, my open rates went from 12% to 35%. People want to hear stories. So this is the key. You ready? So I created an open loop earlier. Can anyone point to the open loop that I talked to? I said, remind me later and I'll tell you how emotion ties into the marketing. Do you guys remember that moment? Raise your hand if you do. How many of you said, I want to know that in your mind subconsciously? When you create moments like that, they're called open loops. And by creating an open loop, you get people to subconsciously say, I want that. I want to know that. If you can create 10 to 15 of those in a training, whether it's virtual or live, you will close way more people because you've got them to say, I want that before you ever make the offer. Super powerful. I just showed you how to do it. So the key with storytelling in an email or with a social media post is identify the emotion that they feel and tell a story that has to do with that emotion, but not with your specific outcome. So if I talk about fear of speaking on stage, who in here has a fear of public speaking? Anyone? It's usually a huge one, but we're all marketers, so we all know how to speak on stage. Who in here has a fear of skydiving? Anyone? Okay, that one's a pretty good one. So I could tell a story about skydiving, but if I started up at the top talking about skydiving, whether this is social media, whether this is a Facebook Live, whether this is an email, if I start by talking about skydiving and fear of skydiving, right away, people are going to be like, they put up a little wall, right? They're like, I don't know if this applies to me. I might do something else. What if I tried to teach you that skydiving is a great thing for you? The benefits of skydiving. Who would read that email? No one, right? Because even though you know there might be a benefit there, you've already said no to it. This is why teaching emails, those value bomb emails that you see everybody sending out, this is why they don't work. Because people don't read them. And if they do read them, they skim them and they're like, whatever. Or if it's really valuable, how many of you have, bought a book off of Amazon? You like, I need to learn how to talk triggers. I need to learn how to be a better public speaker. So you go to Amazon and you buy the top 3 books. Has anyone in here ever done that? And then they come in and you put them on your bedside or you put them on your shelf and you never read them. The same thing happens with those value bomb emails. Oh, I know how to do this now. It's just going to sit there. Instead, if I tell you a story about something that I was really scared of, something that I've been scared of lately, the last one that I wrote around this was going on a blind date. I wrote about the fear and the anxiety around going on a blind date. I started at the top, same Same basic thing. So what's rule number one of the subject line of your email is to get them to open the email. Rule number two, what does the first line of the email do? It gets them to read the second line of the email. Rule number three, the second line of the email gets them to read the body of the email. That's how you write email by copywriting standards. So at the top, I talk about my pain, fear, and anxiety. I do a big curiosity hook to get them to read my story about dating. It follows the same story arc as the hero's journey. So you start with a grabber, high definition moment, train wreck, pain points, epiphany, outcome. The only thing that you leave out, you can leave out the hero montage, the Rocky montage a little bit. Then at the end, I say, how many of you are scared of skydiving? Well, if you want to learn more about it, because we know that overcoming your fears can cause personal growth, go here. Because they have just gone through the story with me and overcome my fear with me, they are now open to overcoming that fear. This is why that emotion line in your spreadsheet is so powerful. You can tell stories around those specific emotions from your life, and then you twist after telling the story to help them solve that emotion. Does everybody see how that works? If you guys can master that, you will never, ever, ever run out of content. How many people in here have said, I would write more emails if I had something to talk about? Has anyone ever said that? This is, you can literally take any story from your life. You can take any news headline that you want. You can take any social tidbit that you want about a rock star or movie star, and you can build these emotional tie stories, and they go anywhere. They can go on social media, they can go in email, they can go in lives, they can go on stage. If you look at the great people who tell stories from stage, Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar, Russell Brunson, Frank Kern, go listen to the little stories that they tell. That is the exact pattern that they follow. Always highlight the emotion and then twist to make it relevant to the people listening. How are you guys doing? Everybody staying with me? Yeah? You guys excited? Put your hands up. Everybody. Okay. We're good. Monica, I see you.
So you actually, you talk about one thing, you're dating girlfriend, you're dating and how fearful it is, and then you switch it, and then you suddenly start talking about skydiving.
Yeah. Well, because what's the fear in the email? The fear was around going on a blind date, what somebody was going to think about me, how I was going to be perceived. And then the solution was stepping out of my comfort zone and saying, it's going to be okay. This will help me grow. Right? The reader has gone through that journey with me. The reason that we love stories is that we get to put ourselves in the protagonist's view and go through with the person. This is what stops walls from coming up. How many of you have ever told somebody something? Right? You tell somebody something, and even though, or maybe you've been told something, let's flip it around. You've been told something, and in the back of your head, you know that it would probably be good for you, but you argue with it anyway. You're like, that's what we're taught to do. That's a survival mechanism that we've been building since birth, right? Is this going to help me? Is this not going to help me? Is this going to hurt me? I don't really know. We start asking questions. But when you tell a story, the person automatically goes through the story with you as a protagonist. That's the key.
Helps me grow. And now you bring up, and how do you bring the skydiving into it?
You literally, so you just have to twist. So let's say we get to the bottom, right? So I went on this date. I had a great experience because I was willing to step out of my comfort zone. It helped me grow. The twist I would put would be, so if you're looking to grow, if you know you need to step outside of your comfort zone and grow, skydiving would be a great way to do that. Click here to book your ticket. That's all. It's just a little twist at the end. So whatever the outcome is and how you got there should mirror like what you're selling. So if it's fear and stepping outside of your comfort zone, that's how you tie it. So the one that I tied dating to, trying to remember. That email was like 3 weeks ago. I think it was a summit that I was on that was about learning how to speak on stage or write a book. It was about how to write a book. And I tied it to, if you've ever thought that it was really difficult and scary to write a book and put yourself out there and that you were going to have to commit a lot to it. And I tied it to writing a book. I said, here is a summit on how to write a book and get on stages. That's what the summit was.
And what would you have in your subject line to get them to open it?
I think, so there are two subject lines that work the best. The first one is always two things that don't belong together, smash together. So I think the one that I used for dating, I've used a bunch of them, and I know there are people on here that are on my list. They might remember better than me, but I think one of them I just used for last week was what giant whales and margaritas in Mexico, how whales and margaritas led to me writing a best-selling book. So how two things that don't belong together equal outcome they want. That's one subject line. The other big subject line that always works is how to do really hard thing in really easy way. That one's probably overused. It works sometimes. The one that always works is raw curiosity, two things that don't belong together with outcome that doesn't make sense. That will get more opens. It does not always get more click-throughs. So a direct subject line that says how to do X to get outcome, that will get less opens, but usually higher click-throughs because they know that they want to click through to the end.
Great.
Is that helpful?
Yes, that was great.
Awesome. I see Victoria with her hand up, and I see Elizabeth's hand up, I believe. Victoria, are you moderating? Is that what's going on?
No. I wanted to ask Steve. So this is very interesting because, as you say, emails are I think are the most seen things as you get them into your inbox. But how you get people to open marketing emails nowadays, because you can type any title on a marketing related email, send it to me, and I won't open it. And I know that hundreds of people are like me. They will see like, oh yes, an email from Steve, but I know Steve is not writing directly to me. It's a marketing email. So how do you get them to open that email?
So I'm going to go back really quick to something that I said. How do you write an email? How you would write it to your mom? I put personal stuff. Sometimes they're embarrassed. Like, this is the other thing. Don't be scared to embarrass yourself. This is one of the things that I have to drill into my clients' heads. Like, I have no shame. I will gladly share anything with you. Sometimes it's really embarrassing. Sometimes there are things that I failed at. Sometimes there are things that I'm stressful. Who in here, like people in here that are on my list can tell you, I misspell a ton of words. I have horrible grammar. I write emails that are not well written. I just dealt with this with a chiropractor. We're taking a chiropractor who had a 6% open rate. Right now we're at 13%. We've been working together for 3 weeks. My goal is to get them to plus 20%. And I said, you've got to get out of, don't put fancy images. You should never, ever put a header image in your email. I know there are people here who do. The reason that you shouldn't is because it alerts Google to it being a marketing email. I know that's not an answer to your question, Victoria. I will come back to that. The answer to your question, Victoria, is to, if you tell stories, right now you won't open that email. But every once in a while, there will be an interesting headline and you'll click on something. REI got me the other day. They said something, I opened the email. If they open your email and it is like nothing else they have ever read, who in here reads my emails just because they make you laugh? Like, I get that comment all the time. Thanks for sharing. I got one this morning. Thanks for sharing this with me. It really made my day. Cool. I did my job. So the reason that people aren't opening all those hundreds of marketing emails is because they know their marketing emails. If
Okay.
instead you share a personal story, and I don't really care whether, I mean, I do want people to click on the links that I give, of course, but that's not the point, right? It's not a teaching email that says, go do this. It's an amazing outcome. You should definitely buy from me. Like, do you like it when you go to the mall, who in here's been to a mall lately, and you see the people out there with the free samples trying to push them on you, right? Nobody likes that. So don't do that. I've been talking with Jay about this. If Jay just told stories about his cars and about crypto mining and about all the weird shit that Jay does, he would get way better opens on his emails, in my opinion.
Right.
Would you guys rather
So-
hear that kind of stuff, or would you rather hear boring marketing stuff?
And that's the second part of the question. So when you're working with a brand that has like these strict like guidelines,
Mhm.
how can you integrate it to the brand?
can't.
Because,
You can't. You have to. So when I work with a brand, so I'm working with a chiropractic company right now, and they came in and they said, but we need to do, I said, nope. I want stories about your personal life. I want stories about your dogs. I want stories about your kids. I want stories about your vacations. We had them start, you're an agency, so have them film short videos to you and write the emails as a story, personal story, because why do people go to a specific doctor? They trust the doctor, right? There are 50,000 chiropractors in a city. Krista, you're raising your hand.
Yeah, I've been so enthralled in all of this that I have not done a great job of managing the time. So I wanted to be able, if we could, I'll just do a super quick, like a soft wrap for anyone who does have a hard end time at the top of the hour, which we do. And then Steve, if you're willing to stay a few more minutes and people can, that's an option as well. I don't mean to cut you off. I just like to honor the time that we set aside.
Sure.
What do you think?
I have a hard stop in 7 minutes.
7 minutes, which is like 5 after. Everybody good for 5 after? All right, take it away. And I just need the last minute to close. So
Cool.
keep going, Steve.
I see Elizabeth has her hand up. So
Hi, so I've been doing my social media and email marketing for a year now. It's not working. I have not been able really to build my email list, and I'm just not getting in front of the right people. So I hate doing the social media. So I'm thinking about just doing more in-person podcast, and I support adults who are caring and struggling to take care of their aging parents or adults.
okay. If you're going to do in-person speaking, what do you sell?
My service consulting, so people can have everything together for retirement and beyond. So like,
Okay.
I'm kind of like the project manager, and then I work with all the other professionals to bring in, because everybody's overwhelmed, don't know what they don't know, and are procrastinating.
So are you a retirement planner?
I guess you could call it that a little bit. Yeah.
Well, it's because there was a disconnect from what you said the first time you started speaking and now. The quick answer that I will tell you, define specific pain points that you solve, and you need to have specific solves for that. So I've worked with financial planners. I know that is not your exact niche, but one of the biggest challenges that they have is, in order for somebody to come see them, they have to admit that they're horrible with money. That makes it really hard for somebody to come in. Most people know they haven't done retirement planning. They know that they're not ready to retire, but to get them to admit that is hard. So if you can tell stories about things around that, it will get them to start opening your emails or tell them in your speeches. So places that I would look at talking, what city do you live in?
Reno, Nevada.
Oh, nice. I lived in Reno right before I moved here. I lived in downtown Reno. So, okay, you have a great market. I would start speaking. There are go to meetups, look for meetups that have your target audience. So you're not looking for a business meetup, you're looking for middle-aged people meetups, right? So it could be Mothers Against Drunk Driving, it could be a pet club. Start looking for those And what you do is you have to build like a 20-minute talk that targets something that is before what you do, right?
Okay,
That would be how I would start with that.
great. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Sorry, could you say that again?
Anyone? I see other people with hands up. I don't know who they are though. It says 2 participants. Barbara.
Hey,
Hey, what's going on?
nothing. I'm actually a dating relationship coach, so I totally, completely get what you're saying. So as far as speaking, where do you find your audiences? Like, for instance, Lorraine and I do events. I can get 80 people to sign up for a live event of mine on Meetup, and they're tire kickers.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so events you have to charge for or people won't show up. I would look at how can you develop a challenge or a workshop, because those are small, lightweight things. Do them virtually. If you try to do a dating workshop in person, you're going to have a really hard time. The one place that you might have success is going to co-working spaces. Where do you live?
Toronto, Canada.
Okay, so right now you're not going to be going to any co-working spaces, unfortunately. If you go to spaces that are already there, you need to do talks to other people's audiences and build your audience. Then what you do is you sell them something. This is the formula. You have to sell them something and give them a ticket to the live event. That's how you get people to a live event. Selling a ticket to an event is really, really hard. Instead, sell them something else that has a specific outcome tied to it and give them the ticket to the live event. The live event becomes the implementation or our hand holding to help you implement that. That will get people there. The other thing, as a dating coach, one of my really good friends is a dating coach in LA. She works with women 45 and over. She crushes it by doing wing woman sessions. So she'll invite 3 to 4 people. She says she charges $100 and I'll go out with you for the night and I will bring guys back to our table that you want to meet.
Oh my God, I love that. That's awesome.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Barbara.
All right, I think we better, I appreciate the questions, and if you're, I know you have to get out of here as well. I'd
So-
like to, yep, go ahead.
Really quick, I'm going to say, if you guys got value from this and you would like to chat with me, if you go to www.steven, STEVEN.coffee, COFFEE, that will take you to my calendar. There aren't very many spots because I'm super crazy busy right now, but if you jump on, I'll be happy to talk with you. That's Steven.coffee. Steve Feld, I know you love that.
Oh, fantastic. Can we give Steve a huge round of applause and thank you so much for all the value that was been given here? Yeah, we really appreciate all of that, Steve. I know there's a lot more. This is just the beginning of that conversation. And if there are anything else you want to share with us, a link, make sure that you get that to me and we'll get that posted with this replay that will go on our YouTube channel and that'll get shared into the Facebook group, because I know we have a lot of members who still want to see this, and I'll still go back and watch it again because there was so much information that was here that we can apply, and we want to be able to continue to learn from you. So thank you again, Steve. And just to wrap up with 2 quick announcements that you can find in our Facebook group. One is if you're a Global Lounge member and say your subscription's about to expire or you are on month to month, I have an incredible way for you to get an entire year of Global Lounge complimentary along with a ticket to JVology Live. And that is coming as a bonus, a fast action bonus for 3B, Business Basics Breakthrough. I did a class workshop on that yesterday. The replay is out there. And if you are looking to step into the ease and flow of finally getting the 10 business basics done and down pat through our very high touch program that begins in April, then If you buy that by tomorrow, Friday at noon, it will include a fast action bonus of an entire year of Global Lounge and a ticket to JVology Live coming up in May. So don't let that pass you by. If you have questions, reach out to me, and Victoria is getting that posted for everybody.
Do you have a link to put in the chat about the program?
Yes, Victoria is doing that as we speak.
Hey, Victoria, the rescuer.
And the other thing I wanted to share is our very own Lorraine and Barbara, who are here on the call right now, are just something really fun for us, or for that they're doing, and we just wanted to open it up to everybody here. It's called Unnetworking. So I'm curious to show up tonight and see what that's all about, and have some fun connecting in a more playful, less business way, and then see how that actually translates into connecting on a deeper level and getting some stuff done. All right, so Victoria's got the replay is posted there, but what I really would love is the jvology.com/business-basics breakthrough. Victoria, if you could drop that, that's where they can get signed up and then take advantage of the Global Lounge special. Again, if you have any questions, just reach out to me after this call, and I'll be happy to help you out. All right, thank you to Steve Werner once again for that really informative, just so much to take to heart and put into action. I know I'm rethinking a lot of different things of what I'll be doing in the near future. So thank you, Steve. And be sure to reach out to him. And Steve, of course, if you have anything else you want links to share, let me know and we'll get those attached to this replay. All right, grab the chat if anybody needs it. We've got some links that just flew in, so I'll hold the room open for about 30 more seconds while you grab the chat. And thank you all for being here. Have a fantastic rest of your day.